Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Delta Stream podcast. I'm Mason.
I'm Chris.
Back.
We're back.
Been 2 weeks.
I think it's almost been. It might be 3 by the time this
Been busy.
drops. Been busy.
I've been up to a lot. I know we missed 1 week because our club, Pokemon Club, was actually taking part of a charity live stream. So where I was on recording time.
And I think
you went home a week.
Yeah, I was traveling and then violently ill.
Yeah, so norovirus has also been hitting the area.
I think at least 3 people, including me, have gotten the virus on our team, and it's just people have been dropping like flies.
One of them is currently recovering now. Either way, not feeling it.
No.
What have you been up to? Pokemon-wise time.
Pokemon-wise, not a crazy amount. I would have gone to a cup today, but it was like an hour and a half away, and I just did not feel like making that drive. But last weekend, I went to a cup. I got top 4, which was pretty neat. Had a very clean run into top 4. I played Miraidon. Very standard list. I think it was Azul 60 from Merida. Drop Rotom for Zapdos. A lot of people have been dropping the 16th Lightning Energy to fit the Zapdos back in and also have Rotom. I am of the opinion that Rotom is the best of 3 card when you know you're going to be going first at least once. Definitely did miss it a couple times. But still, anyways, top 4. Lost out due to a very unfortunate game loss. I bricked in game 1, just absolutely dead drawed, and got dunked on by a good friend of mine, Kyle, who was playing Guardy. He ended up getting second. And then game 2, I just made a pretty drastic gameplay error, misplay. I don't know how to define it. I announced an attack for knockout, took my prizes. Neither of us noticed. We continued playing the game, and then we realized after like an Iono had been played that, should not have been a knockout. I shouldn't have taken prizes. Game state's broken. It's 100% my fault, and that's just a game loss, which is frustrating, but it happens sometimes. Anyways, enough about that. I was a top 4, so a decent amount of prizing, and that did get me points as well. I replaced top 8 finish. I now have to win a cup or get second to fill out the rest of my finishes, which is pretty fun. A lot of pressure there, but I intend to keep on playing a lot of cups going forward. And then I think the last weekend was the charity live stream for you guys. You didn't really do any tournaments.
No tournaments.
There was this past week there was what's up?
No, sorry, you keep going. I'll talk about it later.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in terms of like official championship points events, we went to a cup 2 weeks ago, which was a mistake on account of the fact that
it was a driving. It was
we'll call it a learning experience.
It was a learning experience for multiple reasons.
We live in a snowy area, and we did not check the weather.
I did, and it was supposed to get better.
You know what? You're right.
It was supposed to get better around like our city. We went north, about an hour north.
We went about an hour and a half north, and the weather got a lot worse the further we traveled. We definitely would not have made the drive if we knew the roads would be that horrible, but we were kind of like most of the way there by the time it got that bad, and we were like, I might as well just track the rest of it out. And then we ended up both kind of crashing out at the
I'm not upset about that crash out. I learned a lot about how to build. I've been looking back, and I learned that Dragapult something. You need a plan. I learned.
You need to know how to play a matchup, perhaps.
Yeah,
against the number 1 deck in the format.
Yeah, I've like practiced the deck like none. Like that cup, I wasn't really expecting to do it. I was kind of just like taking a list there, trying to like throw shit at the wall, stuck, and just like feel out the meta. Like, I mean, I love Chao. The only deck I ever want to play. Probably still be playing, but
it'll exist.
Yeah, so I was just like, all right, this is not Chao meta, but I'm gonna figure out how to play it in this. So I took it there. I learned that you need a way into backs. The answer is Palkia. I refuse to run. I really don't like. I want to keep.
You need to run You need to run Palkia so you can play the game without Baxcalibur.
Yeah, my goal with the deck, I think that the deck functions best when there are as few two prizers in it as possible.
Oh, little a little
if I
blurry
if I
blob
raise my
spawning
arm and
in.
move the blur, but sorry. No, so I learned my philosophy with the deck is I want as few two prizers in it as possible, which is why I'm very against running the Palkia. So I learned, okay, I need the Arctibex. My original thought with like not running the Arctibex was kind of like, well, I can't use Ultra Ball, so like, what am I ever searching out? Turns out when you're drop passing for like 3 or 4 turns, there's a lot of opportunity to find the Arctibex.
Or getting
Um,
Bidooed more
exactly,
specifically.
yeah. That's what I meant. And so, Arctibex in, um, took that to a challenge, and it actually worked. Talk about
I
that
was
more in a
gonna say
second.
I was gonna segue that because I think the only other
Exactly. The only
championship point
point
event since the last cast was the challenge this week.
is the only other tournament I've had a chance to get to. So we made it out there. I took the new and improved list. I made a lot of changes. I should have actually had it pulled up. I knew I wanted to talk about it, but Arctibex in. I actually pulled hands out. My list also. I run the Greninja EX. I think it's really like one of, if not the best card in the deck.
It's so good
It's
right
so
now.
good. It's so good.
It's really hard to like
You can't
fit
really.
in any list right now and get
Yeah,
up and running efficiently.
it's a PAL though.
But oh my god, like that snipe and hitting for fighting weakness is
So good.
such a great
Baridon
combo,
is almost like, unless they can run you off the board like turn.
which is
It's
possible,
they
very
can, they
possible.
can, but other than that, like if you
Y-
stay established, like turn, pretty hard to lose.
Yeah, if you don't get run off the board immediately, and if Greninja isn't prized, crucially,
Yeah,
you're winning that matchup almost all of the time. It
yeah.
is, as someone who plays Miraidon and has practiced into a
We've
lot,
played the matchup a
someone who
couple
I would
times.
say
So
I personally is pretty darn experienced on Miraidon. That matchup just never goes well. Like you lose as soon as the Greninja is in play. There's very little you can do
yeah.
against it.
It also makes your Terrapagos matchup like really solid. My
Mhm.
theory is it helps your Cloth matchup. I did hit Cloth with the deck, but I did not play the game versus it. I made the choice to start that matchup because I was afraid of giving up the free prize turn one. Um, Turns out actually, yes, Cloth can take 2 prizes on turn one. So
They certainly
didn't
can.
matter. That put me way too far behind, and I broke you out. So uh, untested, but my theory is that it will help that matchup a lot, mostly because they're just not got it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can pull up a Terrapagos and then snipe like that in a cloth on the bench, or even just snipe some of their bench support, it's yeah, that's a pretty good spot. Is I assume Radiant Greninja, sorry, Radiant Sneasler is fighting week, right? Sorry, I don't mean to
I don't
totally
even know.
disrail. I
Oh,
can
you're
pull it up
good.
real quick. I'm just curious, like it's 130. Yeah, it is fighting week. So I was gonna say you
Okay,
have to hit it in the active to take the knockout because it's 130 HP, but still like
you can still,
you can pick apart
yeah,
their board pretty easily with
do some
the
shenanigans.
way
You
that
can
they got.
also spread it over multiple turns. You can kind of set up like high by brute on it if you want to best one. Like if you're gonna take out an active Cloth, can invest one of the swings into a brute on it and take it at the next turn and be like, all right, well, you need
Mhm.
that set up. If you combo that with like thing, kind of wipe out a lot of their board. I don't think Cloth can do it, but it's a lot to ask.
Also relevant just on account of the fact that it has such high HP. They're not knocking that out in one hit.
Exactly. Yeah, you have the time to do it. So I just love
There's
that card.
kind of the like the reason you don't want to play two. You usually want to avoid putting two prizes into play with POW is because all the two prizes you play, which whereas POW, hands, and Pheasantipity and all that jazz,
They'll just get managed.
very easy for anything to take out
Yeah, I mean, as
in
they should.
return.
Additionally, Regigigas is really good. I wasn't able to use it in any of my matchups, but I was able to use it to like force a checkmate versus my one Dragapult that I did play and beat. I
I,
basically set up a scenario where I, no matter what, it was like he could either focus on my
Mhm.
backs, but then I just had the Regigigas, or try and focus on Regigigas. My deck was like very thin. I might have ciphered the turn before. Actually, I don't think I did that. I did something to like lock in the fact that I would find a turn. Whether it was like thinning my deck really low, I don't really. But yeah, it was.
I was gonna say the Regigigas is something I always like feel like I go back and forth on in that list because on one hand you have POW, which is doing infinite damage, but you're needing 6 energies to KO Zard and Pulse, which is what the
Not
Regigigas is
too
there
much
for
to
versus
ask.
the 4. Like, it's the difference between a superior energy retrieval, uh, and an SCR plus finding 2 more energy.
Yeah.
Um, to the point is where, like, you only run 1 power, right?
I have actually dropped the list because I want as few two prizers in it as
Mhm.
possible. The whole point is I want
And
to be like up trading my prizes versus all these evil
yeah,
decks.
the ability is fantastic. It's
Yeah,
really the best way for you to get energy out of the deck.
and that's what it's still
Uh,
there for.
but like as far as the actual attack goes, like yeah, you're not leaving it in the active super duper often for the actual attack because there's not a ton of super beefy things in the format right now. Um, and like the ones that do exist, like you deal with Gigas, and that's a single prizer that's much more energy efficient.
Yeah,
So, anyways, yeah, no, I am not a POW believer right now. I really stuck with it pretty hard. Saw a lot of success with it in the early season, and was pretty dang close to playing it to Baltimore. I just kind of ended up bulking because I was scared of Dusclops or Dusknoir, which was I think the
that was
right
valid.
call
Those
not
are
to bring that
valid for
list
you.
there. Because I and also Drago, kind of the reason POW is I think able to exist right now is because Drago doesn't exist, and
Thank
that matchup
God.
is
Honestly,
pretty horrendous.
the Draco matchup is just weird. It's kind of just weird, which is
Yeah,
also
it's
bad
pretty much
because
like can you get your backs and Bidoof your Baxes and your Bidoofs up before they
yeah,
Trifrost you and wipe your whole board. That's what
um,
POW was one of the only matchups where you can Trifrost their entire board state
it's like worth
immediately
it.
and be safe because you're not getting a revenge KO for another like
2 turns.
2
Yeah,
turns,
no, you
if
just win the
even
game.
that
When you wipe
much.
the backs like that, you just win.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, it sucks, especially like if I were to hit a Rage Trigger right now, I would call it favored because I've actually been autoing second on POW. Like already accepting that I've built the deck in a way to play up from behind. Denying decks like Miraidon and Raging Bolt their turn 2 that they want is something that I've found really valuable as well. Also, like, PM Evo from like Guardian Bolt has been nice.
Mhm.
Also, just over like blanket denying any deck buttering on you on turn 1 has been really nice. You're forcing them to kind
Yeah,
of like
like
give up a little bit momentum if they do want to still butter you.
it seems so counterintuitive,
Yeah, like POW I would
considering
never say is a go second deck, but right now I've been really enjoying going.
No, I was gonna say like it seems so counterintuitive just based off of the way the deck's always been played and the way um it operates where you need backs in play. You want your evolutions out there as early as possible, but like it's not so much that you need your first turn to get your evolutions
I just need
prepared.
one Frigibax down on
It's
turn 1.
you need to stop the other guys
Yeah,
from having their
yeah,
first turn.
exactly.
Because like you can still like they'll still have like they'll have their first turn and it'll be a
Like
little
their
bit
turn 2
slower,
will
and then
still be good, but it will be slower.
and it will be against a board state that's more established for you.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
thing. POW is so fragile. It's worth it to
It's worth it to
have
just
that more
slow
stable board
down.
state.
I have the option of Irida on turn 1 so that you can
Mhm.
Irida for Greninja Buddy Poffin for your 2 Friggies. Or like in a lot of matchups, like even the Dragapult matchup is still like a 3 Friggie matchup. So just being able to like almost guarantee like, all right, I am getting all 3 Friggies down. Stuff like especially too, I've noticed like being able to, because you're getting Badooed in the Dragapult matchup a lot. If you prize a Friggie, being able to search out the heavy ball to more consistently get that Friggie out of prizes is good overall. Just second to
Mhm.
spot way better.
No, it makes a lot of sense right now.
Enough about
Enough
mid
about
pow.
POW.
Enough about mid pow.
No, this is all about documenting our journey.
True.
Uh, but some stuff has happened in the community over the past couple weeks, specifically last weekend, in particular. Let's talk about some other players' journeys across the pond to the European International Championships in
Oh
2025.
yeah,
You have the results of that pulled up right now, Mason?
got the Limitless pulled up. We
There
looking
we
at
go.
the like
So,
top 20.
yeah, first of all, 3,361 players, the biggest tournament outside of Asia of all time. Fantastic. I'm sure NAIC is going to shatter that number.
Probably. We'll
Um,
probably. I'd be actually sick. I know we talked about doing predictions later in the episode. I think they might aim for 4K. I think we could fit 4K, assuming that they pre-reserved enough space.
yeah,
But that venue was
yeah,
huge, and there was so much space that we didn't even. That was like attached. To
I
the
didn't
room we
go
were in.
last year, but I
Oh,
did
you
hear
weren't
kind of
there.
Yeah, I
Forgot.
know. I couldn't make it this year. I'm gonna try and go, but I had the consensus from people who did
The
go,
venue's
including
like a
yourself,
mile long.
was that yeah, the venue is enormous, and we can definitely shoot for
We can
4K
hit 4K.
4K masters.
If they rented enough
Um,
room, we can hit 4K.
mhm. But for this tournament, currently the largest of all time outside of Asia, uh, I would say pretty interesting results. Definitely the overall metagame breakdown was pretty close to what a lot of people expected in terms of what was played and what ended up
I
being
agree.
converted. Maybe a little bit higher Arcaladon than people expected. I
I
know
think
that
that,
list
yeah.
is
Our
I think that's
Caledon,
probably the biggest surprise for the initial metagame breakdown. We knew it was popular, but like, what was it?
it felt.
Fourth most played in day one?
I
That
think
seems
it
pretty
was it
high.
fourth. I thought it was third. I thought Miraidon was fourth.
You're right. I think it was third, and
I think it
Maridon
was
was.
third.
I think we were expecting at minimum those two to be swapped. I am
I think
shocked
I
that
agree.
it was like close, like within a percentage of each other, but still, that's a
It's
pretty high
just
play rate.
I um I didn't do a lot of Arcaladon testing. That was just because a few matches that I had played against it, like at tournaments, it felt super broad. It just like I really liked the deck and the concept of like, all right, I'm gonna have this like super meaty stage one
Hmm.
that you're probably not gonna Oko, and then I'm gonna Turo it.
Yeah,
It kind
it
of
like.
reminds me a lot of Arctura, almost.
Mhm,
Funnily enough,
I was gonna say,
a little bit. With
it's
just
just
kind
a
of like
big guy that's hard to kill.
exactly,
And additionally, it's just a really well statted card. And
yeah,
like the original
exactly.
Duraludon VMAX,
Just
it's
like really good
this was
HP,
300
super
HP,
solid
ability that
attack.
accelerates to itself, just solid damage output.
Remove your own weakness.
Um,
Why not?
yeah, because of course, who needs that? Not that there's a lot of
Just
normal
yeah, I
fire
mean,
going
like
around right now,
what's
but
really going at is fire type like Radzar, and that's it.
yeah.
Which isn't being played.
Um, mhm.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of fraud. Like everything I played against it, they
Yeah,
just
me
at
too.
some point like whiffed the crucial Turo or like the crucial Dura, or even just like an
It's
energy attached that ended up costing the game later when they were like one short on a or something.
it's like the lack of a real draw engine. They're super susceptible to Iono and stuff like that. They have their Fezzes and Greninjas, which is like at least 5 cards a turn. That's, not nothing. That is significant.
Yeah,
But if you boss up and kill a Fez and then, Iono them or something like
yeah,
that, or, they don't get into play. Anyway, like it just feels like just super fragile. Um, and like a well placed Iono can really make it fall apart because there's no main draw engine.
yeah,
But
exactly.
no, that is not the
Like
case at all.
not
Mhm.
playing. Well, I mean, again, like I think all the testing I done with it was probably like around a month or more ago. So I
That's
guess
also the
the
other
deck
thing.
has
Like
probably just been a lot more figured out
yeah,
now.
people have had time
I mean,
to
I'll
clean
pull
up the
up
lists.
the fourth here and open it.
Yeah, while we're on
We
the
can talk about it
topic, we
more.
can get to the actual winners later. Simone Florito, Art Dialga. I know there's variants that don't run Dialga.
I think the Dialga's
Don't.
just like decent.
I
I
don't.
don't
I
know.
feel like
I
no.
go
I
back and
you
forth
got it.
on
You
it.
got to run the Dialga. Like
I mean, obviously you have to. Clearly, this is what's performing, but it feels like just from like observing people, like it feels like one of those things where it's like you really have to be able to gauge whether you're actually going to be able to achieve it to or not. Like achieve it, like the Dialga, you're just not going to be able to hit it every game. You
you
have to
have to
be
know
able to,
whether or not
yeah,
it's
you
worth
have to
committing to in a
read
matchup.
early on if you're gonna get it or not. Because if you're not, like diverting your resources to it, like loses you. That was what was happening in a lot of
Exactly.
mine, where like my opponents were kind of stretching themselves really thin trying to get the Dialga, and that was what ended up like costing them a throw or something. They would dig instead of throwing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's because when you evolved the Archaludon to accelerate the energy, it's putting 2 on the board. Uh that can go to itself or Dialga.
exactly.
Um Either way, if you have a Dialga in play and you put it on the Dialga, you have a Archaludon on the board with no energy attached,
And
and
that's
that can
just
get
like
stranded and stuff like
getting
that.
dust every time.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's a bit it's hard to kill target, but it is still a target that's not immediately going to be responding to you.
Yeah.
Um but still, like Dialga's such a strong card. It's
Dialga
gonna be the
just like wins
second
the game
turn.
when it's
Whenever
there.
there is an effect in the game that lets you say take 2 turns in a row, it tends to see play in at least some capacity. That's
Yeah.
just too good to pass up. If you got to figure it out somehow.
I don't deny like getting the Dialga off definitely probably wins you the game most time.
Mm,
It's just I mean, five energy, that's a lot to ask from a
yeah,
deck that's only
it, yeah. it's tough to set up, but clearly it's successful.
Yeah,
And you know,
if you
Simone
know
getting top
when.
4 with it. I'm actually curious where the other ones ended up placing. Let me let's catch up.
Looking
Because you
at
know there
this
wasn't any,
list, nothing
it was the
spicy.
highest by a pretty big margin. If I'm not missing anything, there's only one more within the top. Mm, oh no, no, it doesn't look like any. It was the only one in the whole top 64, so she really shot
So
up.
maybe
But
I was right, and
nowadays,
it is mid.
yeah, the next two were Alex Szymanski and Cyrus
Cyrus.
McCain, both in top 128. A couple more spattered throughout top 128. Um, which is yeah. So still like ended up converting pretty well to day
See the
2, if I'm
black
not
belts in
mistaken.
Alex's list that we don't see for some.
And Simone's.
Yeah,
I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. I did not watch
I
stream.
didn't either.
Simone? It might be
I think
Simone.
it's Simone. I don't actually
Yeah.
know. Black belt,
Apologies if we're
black belt is
mispronouncing that.
good cards.
Yes, that is in certain variants of the list that either don't have Dialga or focus a lot less on them. Which makes sense. It helps you increase your damage output. It's taking out some opposing threats and all that stuff. Just seems like a solid inclusion.
I feel like I almost agree with the 1/1 Dialga more.
I think I like that as well. It's not something you want to use in every single game. It's very powerful, but not
If you're not gonna get
necessary.
it, don't.
Yeah, it can be a bit of bait. But if you want to move off of
Oh, I
Arcaladon
guess one
Dialga
more
and
thing.
talk about,
Being a jamming
oh,
tower deck too.
last
I
thing.
wanted to talk about.
Yes. Oh,
Jamming tower
oh,
stocks
so
are
worth
going
mentioning. Thank
up.
you for bringing that back up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jamming tower. This is something I know we two have talked about just like at work a lot, but like jamming tower is
Mhm.
probably gonna be the predictive. We are kind of predicting to jamming tower to be one of the most powerful stages. Because the game design I feel has shifted in such a way that like 2 years ago, I would say we were very ability focused, and that's why we had path.
Mhm.
But they've printed like so many powerful tools in the last year that we're almost moving to a what's more of a balance between. I mean, obviously, we still like really powerful. We still have flip the script. We still have squawk and see. But like that's not really stuff. I mean, those have like other trade offs, right? Like squawk and see that means you have to put squawk in play. He's a huge you lose the bench space for the rest of your.
I think the difference is
Sensitivity
a lot of the abilities are
just
in
broken, but
universal support Pokemon
yeah,
versus the core of the deck.
exactly.
You can play Dragapult without rule box abilities. It's called Dragapult Iron Thorns, and it was a moderately successful list for a minute
Exactly.
there.
Yeah,
You couldn't play Palkia without access to
exactly.
your
Same
V
with
Star
like
power.
Arceus. Same with
Hmm.
they're blanking on uh trying to see
Charizard even.
Charizard.
Yeah, like over like the whole Sword and Shield and into the early Scarlet Vine. As long as
Rule
Path
box
to the Peak
abilities
existed, it was
were
relevant.
really big. Yeah.
And they're
So
still very relevant now, but what you are getting at is
it's
that
just
there's a lot of really powerful
just
tools
less
at the
reliance on it.
moment.
And yeah, tools are becoming
Mhm.
where, like where I think the game is moving towards. I think when we hit rotation, we'll see tools get a lot more powerful. I mean, we have Lily's thingy that makes worth one last prize. Like that's a crazy tool.
Yeah,
Uh
the Hops
Probably one
tool,
of the
which
craziest tools ever printed, in my opinion.
just like Life Do, but it's not an A spec, even if it is limited to certain Pokemon.
Right?
Hops being reduced attack cost reduction and a power induction, like
Like
a
so
plus
strong.
30 item is always played whenever it exists. That also reducing your like again. So none of these lists have been seeing a ton of success post rotation.
Which I mean I guess we'll
Definitely
get
like
to later, but
we'll talk
I know
about
where
Journey
that's on the
together
agenda.
later. But just jamming tower being able to shut them down, and even currently right now there's a lot of really powerful tools, your bravery charms, rescue boards, and sparkling crystals, all of that jazz
Exactly.
being a list that can play jamming tower without
And
hurting
even Heroes
yourself, which
Cape
is
and Guardy.
Here's Cape, yeah, which is what Arcaladon is. That's super powerful, and I think that's what makes it a deck worth keeping in mind.
Exactly. So very,
Mhm.
very interested to see we predict, like the counts damage are going up
Yes,
across the
I think
board.
it'll be a predict the jamming tower stonks to rise.
I mean, even just blocking so
Yeah, no,
like just everything is so much.
it's great.
But we can move on
Moving on to the
now.
other lists, if we want to talk about the rest of top 8 and specifically the winner of the tournament,
Ryuka. Wait, Ryuki?
Ryuki
Ryuki,
Okada,
my fault.
already a victor in Europe, winning one other European regional that I'm going to check now. He won Dortmund with
Oh yeah, yeah.
the Dragapult Dusclops or Dusk Noir build, kind of putting that build of Dragapult on the map because it really wasn't the one people were
I think
aware of at
people were
that point.
trying to cook it, but like I can even just think back to Lily, who's not here right now, has spent a lot of time trying to make that
Mhm.
work, and it just was never
Yeah.
functioning. I think them really pioneering like a build that will consistently work was very huge.
They they gave us that blueprint a couple
Exactly,
formats ago.
exactly. Which has been expanded on a
Now,
lot, but now they're on the
yeah,
cloth.
I was gonna say the tables have turned, the flips of script, as it were. Meeting Natalie Miller, a very talented Australian player, in the finals on a Dragapult Dusk Noir build, and Ryuki has pivoted to Cloth, which we briefly spoke of earlier, or Cloth Terapagos.
Yeah,
Poison Terapagos. I think I hear more people calling it Poison Terapagos
I think it
nowadays because
probably
there
makes
really is
more
only
sense.
one cloth in there. Um, and this is a different way we've seen the list built, not even compared to last format when the list kind of got popularity. But even in this format, people have continued playing the list. To Badoo,
Which is
Monkey Dory in there
solid.
with a single Dark Energy, very popular tech for Dragapult, just not one you see in this archetype.
Not often.
Um, mhm. uh, and cutting the Petrarun EX entirely, which I think
Probably
is
agree with that.
I
I think I do.
I'm torn because on one hand it was there to really guarantee you never lose to Snorlax.
Well, I was about
It
to say
also
that hasn't really been a problem
no, despite
until this tournament.
ignore the two Snorlax and
Until
top
this
cut.
tournament, I
This
don't think
format
it's
has
really
not seen a
been
lot
on the
of
map this format.
yeah, it's not been on the map. But the other thing is it's just a little bit more consistency for getting the turn one donk off, getting guaranteeing you get the Petrarun active.
But you do have the Latias now, so
Mm-hmm.
something between the Latias and the Force Switch cart, like
You're getting your
it's
stuff switched.
you're pretty much getting there without the
Yeah.
Petra, and I think the Switch carts are probably better off for you long term than having the extra bench space like eaten up.
Definitely. Other thing to point out, 3 Area Zero as opposed to 4. That is your core stadium. You need that in play to be performing well with this deck. That's a risky cut, but
I
it
think I agree with
worked
it.
out for him.
I think I would rather cut Area Zero. Like I've seen a lot of people. No, not true. A lot of I've done semi-relevant. Never mind. I've tried to click Petron a lot before. Like in my experience of trying to make Petron Donk work, the
Mhm.
ancient booster energy capsule is always the thing that is like the most annoying.
Yes.
So
I was gonna say, is that another
yeah.
one? I'm not familiar with the older counts of the list. Do people usually run 4 of those instead of just 3?
I don't know. I was never familiar with the list because I think it's a file. But from what I'm seeing from all the lists here, I'm seeing a lot of three. I think three is
Okay,
probably
so 3.
correct. There's two actually in the 15th place list. Maybe not. I mean, I'll keep
So
browsing.
people go even lower than that, apparently.
I think two is just objectively correct.
That seems a little risky.
Uh, just
Yeah, there's 2 of the
terrible.
other.
Because you aren't getting those back, and those are like. There's a funny image where all the blocks are held up by like the one skinny one, and it's always like Radiant Greninja. That's that card for this deck. It is
Yes.
Ancient Booster Capsule. The whole deck is being held together by that,
Mhm.
and it's very underappreciated. Not
Yeah,
underappreciated, but just undervalued.
don't play less
Sometimes
than 3. Mm-hmm.
I would
But
even
yeah,
say
this.
four. But
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the list that won. It definitely won by capitalizing on kind of its gimmicky win conditions of donking. In game 1, it donked Lone Festivity that Natalie started. And in game 2 is pretty close, by the way. He had a great early league, and then Natalie was able to drag it back because she is very talented. And then game 3, unfortunately, Natalie started Lone Dreepy, and it was another donk.
kind of sad,
Yeah,
but I mean that's what the deck does. I mean that's also
is what
part
the
of why
deck
it's so
does.
good. Because you can do a lot of other funny stuff to manipulate your prize trade. I mean you have one prize attacking option. This is the deck that like will almost let you use Pheasantipity, which is like really, really strong right now. A lot of decks rely.
Yeah, being able to manipulate the poison
And then of
damage to take the
course,
knockout during checkup.
like even through the span of an entire tournament, like UIC, where you're playing like something crazy, like what isn't it like ish rounds? No. Fucking how
I
many
think
rounds
you're
are there?
not 20
Not
because
20.
it's a
It's like
it was a
9 day
particular
one,
controversy with this tournament,
9 day
kind of
one,
dragging it back up that I think it's only 13.
13 rounds. 13 rounds, but that's at least
Might even
20,
be,
26
yeah,
games, 26 to
because we cut down from 15
30.
overall. to
41, 39. Between
to
26
fit
and
into a
39 games,
yeah.
you know, some percentage of your games are ending before your opponent even gets to do anything. So, when you're playing such a large quantity, like even just that.
No, it's definitely one of the reasons the semi consistent donk potential is absolutely one of the huge upsides of the deck.
Exactly. It just has
Uh,
a lot of cool things for it.
yeah,
Very
uh,
hard to play against,
very much so. It's just weird.
especially if you haven't practiced it. You kind of look at their board, and you're like, all right, what is, I, at least in the experience that I've played against it, like I'm trying to decide like what is the best way to pick apart their setup because there's so many moving
Mhm,
parts that like it's almost hard to identify like where's the weak link right now.
definitely. Knowing what the right target to go for is
Yeah.
to just gonna cripple them the most. Mhm. If we want to take a look at the second place deck, Natalie Millar's Dragapult Dusk Noir, it's a pretty standard build. I don't know if I have much to say about
I don't
this
think there's
list
anything
other than
crazy.
Dragapult's definitely the best deck in the format right now.
Absolutely.
It uses Badoo the best, takes advantage of the decks that Badoo pushes out of the format pretty well. Um, I don't play the deck very much, but I
We
know
see
what a
Lance
normal
making
list.
its way back in. I think if I'm not, I
Lance
mean
has
I
been
could be
getting very
wrong.
heavy counts. So we can take a
Lance
look at
was
the
very
other
popular.
Dragapult lists
I was gonna
to
say,
see how crazy the lists have gotten. But I
um,
think three Lance, it's a
Three Lance
little
is
heavy.
good. I agree with
Yeah.
Three Lance. I think what I was getting to was there was a big dip in Dragapult running Lance. I know like when the card first dropped, like even like the price of Lance like skyrocketed because everyone was like, oh my god, Lance. And then from
Well,
my
yeah,
understanding,
because Badoo.
yeah, exactly. And I mean that even gets into like our journey together predictions, but
Mhm.
just the trainer based Pokemon so strong, like so strong.
And also
I'll talk
just
more
the
about that
fact
later though.
that you want to get so many dragons into play. Drakloak
Exactly.
being your main draw engine. You
It's just kind of like
buddy
Guardy.
for your Dreepies turn one, Lance for another Dreepy to Drakloak or Dragapult. Like it's just getting that many of your Pokemon. You want to evolve the full lineup. This list just play two rare candy. It's there to be a little more aggressive with things, but you want to get a lot of Drakloaks into play, and that's what
Yeah.
Lance helps you with.
I feel like I definitely agree with the three Lance. I've seen a lot of lists I was just pulling through from like top 32 where it was like almost like a 50-50 split between 3 and 2 Lance. I feel like
Mhm.
3 Lance. That's just gotta be
Uh,
better.
for example, the other list in top eight, another Australian, James Cox. He only runs two Lance.
Yeah, I think I had just
But Lance has been getting a lot heavier in the list, and I think I agree with that. It's just important to have them all out and play.
agreed. Otherwise, it's not really. I mean, this deck is just really cool.
Yeah.
The line. I mean, this is another deck that's like really hard to play against. I could even go back to a little bit of my power experience. It's this really weird checkmate that it can do to a lot of decks where it's like they're doing you and you can't really do anything about it because you don't want to turn on their counter catchers, or else they're
Hmm.
gonna have a very, especially if they're able to get like slightly ahead of you in setup. Like if they're able to get some Dusclops down or even a Dusknoir, and like a Dragapult ready, um, you know, turning on their counter catcher, by like taking the first KO on that Budu is honestly like really bad for you because then they just they can get so far ahead off that. They can just
Yeah.
gust, you know, they can gust and take out like three of your crucial pieces. I mean, obviously for POW it's like three Frigis, but I can think of a lot of decks, that
No, it
like
yeah,
losing all three of your support pieces.
letting them go behind. Yeah, turning on that counter catcher. Some lists even play Defiance bands to push past the 200 damage breakpoint of the Pulse attack. They
Like
can
so
just
devastating.
rip apart your board state in one turn or set up a checkmate in one turn.
Yeah, it's just like
It's
crazy.
tricky. It's tricky.
The boards to like threaten.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
super strong. Well, Dango
yeah.
in third.
Dango. That was we're gonna move on.
I want to talk
Wow,
about
these lists are looking really weird nowadays.
these are. It's been a hot
Uh,
sec since I've paid attention to Dango.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
I
always
think
been
I
like
like agree with what I'm.
there.
I mean, obviously agree with what I'm saying, but
Mhm.
Energy Search Pro. I mean, it's a really. I think it's a really cool card to be honest. Probably one of
It.
my favorite ace specs we've gotten. It's just so fun.
I'm torn on it because on one hand, it's like it is. I don't know. It just seems so weird to me.
It's a weird one for
Just
sure,
screw it. Sure, one of every energy type, but God, it fits so well into this deck
right?
because
Because it's like
you yeah. You just literally one item you're doing next to infinite damage. Your whole board state's getting set up, and then you just need to find a superior every turn, which is very
Exactly.
easy with all the Cypher Maniac
And
and
that's what
Argon
the
and
rest
all
of
that
your deck is
jazz.
built to do. This is another deck.
Yeah.
Goldango is like a Pokemon. 260 HP, talked about a lot, is just like such an awkward HP to have to deal
Mhm.
with.
Most of the Pokemon that have scaling damage attacks, Chi and Pao, Goldango itself, all that jazz,
Raging Bolt. No, Raging Bolt.
Raging Bolts, Bolt's fine. It's 4
Only
energy.
4
But it's not very played right now. They need to anyways, it's just an awkward number to hit because in a lot of your
scaling. It's like
your
the
scaling
10 HP is
you have
pushing
to
you over
reach
the
up to
threshold.
300 to hit
Yeah,
it. It's
300
like
is
10 to 20 damage out of range.
yeah. And that can be like that's not too bad. It's just sort of like an awkward number, and it almost feels like a
Mhm.
waste. Needing the 5th energy consistent. Now it's like it's not that bad, and it's not that hard to get. But like it
Mhm.
just messes with like your sequencing.
Same
You have,
with Miraidon.
yeah, I was gonna say decks like Miraidon,
Oh
like
my god, this
you
deck is
can't like
it's a
deal with
borderline
it.
auto loss.
Yeah,
Miraidon can't deal with Goldango. You
you
have
need
to
to
get a turn 1 amp, Raichu the next turn, or
like
either
Gust KO
either
Fez.
Gust Amp, Raichu, or Gust Fez, which all three of those are requiring a lot of energy to go back into play after your hands was 100% knocked out. And then you need to do this like it's you need to amp on the first turn, and then you have 3 ways to take prizes the next turns that all require like 5 plus like 4 to 5 energy,
Which is
and
just not
it's
something Miraidon wants.
no, it's not something you're doing. Meanwhile, lists like this also, not necessarily from Miraidon, but in general, it's worth pointing out. Nothing fancy in terms of the Palkia coming back in the list, which
I
is
think
really
it's
good mirror
probably
tech.
correct. I think Palkia is bait
I
in
think it's
every
a
deck
good
it's in.
mirror. It's good in the mirror because it's really efficient and easy to get it set up. It does still run the Radiant Greninja with 2 water energy, so you can manually accelerate to it over time, which I think is funny, and I'm not sure how relevant that ended up being throughout the tournament. And also Monkey Dory with double dark
Monkey
energy or
Dory
extra
is
dark energy.
sick.
That makes more sense. That
Monkey
makes a
Dory
lot
is
more sense
sick.
to me. And I think we even saw this on stream. It really messes with Dragapult's math. There
Oh
is
yeah.
not like them need like 'cause they can't ever take a one shot on you, not even with Defiance Band. They need to pop their their Dusk Noirs. They need to move stuff around with Radiant Alakazam. You do 200 to a Dango, put 60 on the bench. They move 30 off of either of those. They're out of range for a knockout now, and your whole board state, your whole prize map is messed up.
I mean, just even in like any deck, it feels decent. Like any deck that if like you have the bench space and you have the energy search to do, uh, it's like not bad in for Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But a lot of time, because even like I look at stuff and it's like Fez. A lot of times, like they'll drop 10 damage on a Fez and leave that isn't as an option for later. Uh, and plenty such Pokemon like that. And Monkey Doring being able to just like that line that you left yourself, that out you left yourself earlier, taking it away. And Dragapult
Mhm.
has like not had to deal with it. Personally,
Exactly.
Picnic Basket was my idea for that, but Dory's okay
Hmm. I think I prefer Monkey.
too.
If we want to move on, the rest of top 8, 2 lax lists, which I personally don't know much about and don't care to speak on. There is another Dragapult that made top 8, Vinny Fernandez, whose brother Gabriel Fernandez, I think running the same list, won
One,
seniors.
yeah,
Absolute dominant force in the game. I'm not looking forward to him ending up in Masters because he is going to rip the division to shreds.
absolutely.
This
This
is
is a
a
really cool
weird
list. This is a cool list.
ass list.
Lost City,
Uh,
Defiance. I think like not running the Dusknoir opens you up to a lot of like weird techs.
it's
Like
so
the
much
Lost
space
City.
in the list. And there's more. There's it's unfair stamp instead of crystal, which is something I don't know if I agree with necessarily.
All
But
right.
to each, especially if you are also running a Monkey Dory that you need to additionally attach. Again, if you can fit Monkey Dory in your list, go for it. I think it's a fantastic card, one of the strongest cards in the game right now. But you're needing an energy attachment every single turn. And if you lose those energy attachments in this list, you're getting punished pretty hard. There's no rare candy. You're expecting to get knocked out and go behind. Does run double Badoo and Klefki to slow down your opponents, particularly Miraidon in the case of Klefki. And only one Crispin as well. Like I feel like any
One
list that
Crispin,
isn't
I feel
running,
like I can agree with no. Like, I mean, okay, I can agree with no crystal if you're running.
I think yeah. I mean, hey, it got results, and
I
there's
mean,
other
yeah,
lists like this that did pretty well, including Towards was a stamp build. Just being a lot slower and more deliberate. Uh, I personally like the aggressive builds a lot more with Dusk Noir, but if you're not going to build it with Dusk Noir, I think this is I don't know. It seems pretty crazy, but it just like
I feel like,
I
uh,
understand how a lot of it flows.
yeah, I mean, I keep getting hung up on this Lost City. Like, I feel like ever since I've seen Dragapult, it's been one of those cards I'm like, I've wanted to play it with Lost. I haven't ever played, but
Mhm.
I've wanted to play it with Lost City. Just because it feels, especially when you're got some,
Oh yeah,
uh,
no. When you take like a
yeah,
multi, taking a you just I feel like it no longer needs to become a six prize turn to win the game. Not that it
exactly.
would always need to be the case, but it can now be a three prize turn or even like a two knockout turn, no matter how many prizes you're taking. But both them going to the lost zone is pretty devastating for
Right,
them,
like
especially if it's like a Fez
sending like
or
a
like
Fez to the Lost Zone, sending a Radiant Greninja to the Lost Zone.
freaking any into Gardevoir, any of Gardevoir's
They
attackers
have
and
every
stuff,
one of their attackers is like a one up.
or like multiple
Sending like the
Curlias.
Drifloon to the Lost Zone. There's no vacuum in this, but if that was like, if you're worried about your guardian matchup, I don't know how about I don't know how worried Dragapult is about their guardian matchup. But if you were, vacuum
Yeah.
Drifloon to the Lost Zone plus another attacker if you're ghosting it, I like that.
Mhm. A little scary for any evolution deck to play it just on account of all of your evolution lines are getting sent there too. But Dragapult's pretty tanky,
Yeah, we see
320
the
HP, no
4/4 line.
weakness. Yeah, you've got enough to make up for it. I think this is a very spicy, a very interesting list.
I'm a fan.
But the Dusk Noir build is probably a little more consistent overall.
Honestly, I would say like the Destiny list probably has like higher power level.
Hmm.
And you probably see it more consistent at like the top of tournaments. But I would argue a slower list like this probably more plays the game. I think it just takes a
That
lot
could be the
more
case, yeah.
like a lot more future planning to play, and so that might be why I see a lot less. Uh, like you're really only going to see like super high skill players play lists like.
I agree. But yeah, that's
I think it's
pretty much all
EUIC.
of top 8 covered. There's some
Well, that's
other
fine. Let
funky
them talk about
lists.
that.
Yeah, there's some other funky lists out there, like
Nothing too crazy.
Dragapult with Charizard, Grant Manley making top 16 with Lost Box. He ended up losing out of top 8 because he tied the winning in. He said this list was not very good and to play it differently. Uh,
Fair enough.
I don't know enough about Lost
Me
Box right now to
either.
disagree. I just feel like it's still a pretty terrifying play with Dragapult existing in the format. That just seems like
Heard
a horrendous matchup for
heard a
you.
lot of talk that that's actually supposed to be. I don't really
For Lost
understand
Box?
how. I think it might just be
I
because
don't understand how either.
uh I guess as long as you're not getting Badooed,
Yeah, but you're
you
gonna be getting
probably just
Badooed.
run. That's the problem.
You just get
I don't know
Badooed
what your out is to getting Badooed.
until like they set up a Dragapult and then they just start nuking your whole board.
I don't see anything here to deal with other than
Yeah.
like double attached to comfy, which actually honestly isn't that terrible. I feel like
Uh
how many vacuums are there?
oh, excuse me.
One vacuum?
Um
Oh, never mind.
I mean
I would think running like a heavier vacuum count in order to like make up for lost turn. This could be decent, but
like I know Jet Energy also heavy count of Jet Energy to
oh,
make up
that's
for your
true.
switching.
That's true. Okay.
So
And
like if you have
that
three comfy in
yeah,
play, it's active Jet flower selecting retreat to either another flower selecting or
or
whatever
just like
Pokemon you
leave it
want to
there
use that turn.
and spinning attack. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't sound terrible.
I don't think you're spinning attack with one psychic in the list. I think you save that Sir Sableye, but
Wait, that's
what do
true.
I know?
All right, I'm just like completely mis. The
I
Crispin's
think you're probably
interesting. I like the
not
Crispin.
attacking the Badoo until you have like others using like Cramorant or
Oh, you
Sableye
know
or
what I think it
Greninja.
is to be. I think you're Moonlight
What?
Shurikening. You have the Crisp.
Yeah, you're Moonlight Shuriken. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I see it.
yeah, that's what you do here.
I don't hate it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd feel confident recommending anyone bring that.
No,
Lost
me
Box to a tournament right now, though.
me either.
That's yeah.
But I think that's
Um,
about it.
that's all I wanted to talk about.
Something else happened recently.
Something else did happen recently. We're recording this on March 1st, 2 days after the 27th, which is
Pokemon
Pokemon Day.
Day.
29th anniversary of the franchise. Getting pretty close to Big 30 here. That's going to be fun.
That will be fun.
But they talked about some of the future of the aspects of the future of the franchise, including closer look at Legends ZA, which was announced last year. Got our starters. We know the general premise. We're going to be modern day Lumio City, kind of rebuilding things, helping wild Pokemon and modern humanity live in harmony. Megas are returning in game, and there's a new battle mechanic to accompany them with like dodging and ranged attacks and all that stuff.
As the Legends series seems.
Yeah, kind of mix up the battle formula, but keep a lot of elements of the main series. I missed sequence the way I said that. I meant to save Megas for last.
That's okay.
Would we like to jump into that right now?
Do we want to jump into Megas in game or Megas in TCG?
I was gonna say we could pop around. We'll save Megas for TCG until we're doing the rest of the topics.
Oh boy.
But yeah, Megas are back. That's cool. I like Megas. I know they weren't like the healthiest thing for VGC, and
But
we
they're the
don't
coolest
know
thing.
for sure if they'll be back for VGC. I think other than terrestrialization, they are by far the coolest gimmick. I love.
I think they're cooler than
Pokemon. They're very
terrestrialization
cool.
from like a spectating, well, like from like a I just like Pokemon and I want to watch people battle standpoint. From like the competitive standpoint though, like terrestrialization definitely been the best thing.
Yeah, it clears.
Yeah.
But so I think it's cool it's coming back, and I don't know. I was expecting to see a little bit more about it. Maybe some new megas or new forms of Pokemon and all that stuff. We can presume that the starters, Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, will be getting,
Probably
if
a
it follows
regional
the
variant and a
Legends
mega form.
Arceus, a regional variant and a mega, which I'm looking forward to. I think that's gonna be
fan.
awesome. I would hope the Kalos Pokemon get mega evolutions. That was such a disappointment when they did not back in the
Ash's
day.
Mega Grenade.
Ash's mega. I mean, it already is basically classified as a
It
mega
kind of is.
Pokemon.
Pretty
I
cool.
think I'm not sure exactly how that works, but that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it for sure. It's going to release late this year. Another relevant thing for competitive Pokemon that will potentially just change the way VGC works forever.
Oh boy.
Is Pokemon Champions, which is a game in development, no information on release date yet, that appears to be a dedicated battle simulator. I imagine it's kind of their answer to Showdown, an official version of the fan-made simulator Showdown. I hope that does not mean they're going to finally go after Showdown in terms of legal action, because I can't imagine anything they make will be as convenient as Showdown is. We have no information about this.
If we're trusting Pokemon's track record with making sims for their game, it could do better.
You know, Battle Revolution was fun but not perfect.
Showdown, I mean, you know, like even just to the convenience of like adjusting your IV like in between, even like, you know, like during games. I mean, you can't adjust it for the current game. Like if you're testing in a game and you're like, oh crap, I hate that. You can like literally tab over to your team tab, change it, and then immediately in the next game it'll be changed. The convenience is on. I don't think you can match it without literally copying this.
Yeah, they said there's going to work alongside Home. I'm very curious how Pokemon acquisition and all that jazz is going to work in this game. We really don't know anything about it though, other than
I'm personally hoping.
I'll let you finish.
No, yeah, sorry. I was gonna say, I'm personally hoping that this will be sort of like a for fun, like, you know, battle your friends is less so like what they're playing or they're like players practice, because obviously like the best platform is Showdown. I really hope they don't plan to replace Showdown, because if they do, I think that's gonna go terribly for me.
I think going after Showdown will not end well under any circumstances. But I do think that having this as a official version of Showdown to be used in actual tournaments would be nice. It could potentially allow for better graphical fidelity, for spectator modes and all that stuff. Just the convenience of not of like, I don't know. It feels like they could custom build this thing out for just battling. It gives them a lot more freedom than having to fit in a lot of the other single player features. The one notable thing I did want to mention about it before we move on and kind of segue to our next topic, we saw multiple generational gimmicks being used in the trailer, we see a Terra Water Dondozo fighting a Mega Charizard,
That's so
which
cool.
seems to imply that there'll be cross generational gimmicks. This is something that I think Showdown has done before, just like for fun. It's very hard to pull off and incredibly unbalanced.
It's
Uh,
terrible, but it's so fun.
I'm curious if they're going to try and tackle the balancing of this and make it work. But Megas, we mentioned it twice already. And I think anyone who's listening to this will have paid attention and noticed that they made another announcement. Very rare during Pokemon Day for them to talk about the actual card game. Uh, Megas are returning to the TCG,
They are.
and boy, are they something.
Oh
Ah,
boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
there's a lot of thoughts on this. You have them pulled up right now?
I do. Both of them are on.
So we saw Mega Lucario and Mega Gardevoir EX. And they are stage 1 and 2 respectively. They are not the original Mega Evolution mechanic where they evolve from a basic EX, capital EX Pokemon, therefore ending your turn unless you have a Spirit Link. They are straight up replacing that evolution on the chain. So instead of Mega Lucario evolves directly from Riolu, Mega Gardevoir evolves directly from Kirlia. Not remotely how it works in the games, but how it appears like it's going to work here. And these
That's
cards are freaking crazy.
they're cool. I don't mind them being three prize. I think a lot of people's problem with them is that they're three prizers. I don't mind them
Yes,
being
that
three
is the
prizers.
big number.
I don't mind a lot of things about them. I do mind how easy they seem to be to get into play.
Yeah,
I would like to see the mega gimmick. In game, obviously it's like a once per turn thing. So when I see this translated to the cards game, like I would like to see that translated as well. Maybe not that it's once per turn, although I don't hate that. Just sort of like the difficulty of the limitation to it.
Yeah, the old limitation was it ended your turn, which I think was a pretty horrible way of implementing it, even for how powerful some of
Probably.
the megas were back then. Uh, I like the idea, and we'll see if this gets implemented. I like the idea of limiting a mega evolve to once per game or once per turn, even because that means, like, again, three price Pokemon, such a big controversy, such a big talking point. We had them with Tag Team GXs, which were basics, and currently we have only been shown mega evolved uh of evolution Pokemon. There are plenty of Mega Evolved Pokemon that would be basics. Absol, Kangaskhan, the bugs, all of that jazz. I think three price basics is one of the more unhealthy things for the game. And then even like
That sounds
VMAXs
terrible.
were multi-prizers evolving into even more multi-prizers. It's the fact that the game can end in like 2 to 3 turns, which already the format, like even with Badoo has slowed things down quite a bit, but for most of this season before Badoo, the format was really fast. The games were ending in 3 to 4 turns, maybe 5 at the most. Just keeping things moving so quickly with Pokemon giving up so many prizes is just something a lot of people don't generally seem to enjoy.
You know, I originally just kind of like I was even sitting here talking about it. I think thoughts started out as like, well, it's just gonna work like that. Like you're just gonna evolve from real. Gonna be no. Like the more we think about it, I really think that there like is room. It doesn't say it on these cards. I think there really is room. Be sort of like a V star power type deal where it's like you can only make evolve once. Obviously, like the counter argument for that is just that it would have to say that on the card.
Yeah,
But
I know they
feel like
said the
I feel like
cards
it
are under
wouldn't have to.
development, but
They did say the cards are
yeah.
still in development, so who knows? Maybe they're not printing them. I definitely was of the opinion of like if they're showing us this, like this is definitely being loaded into packs right now. But they did say like these are in development. I think it's possible that we get. I mean, even like I'm stuttering here, but I feel like it doesn't have to say it on the card for it to be
No,
like a once per turn
it could
mechanic.
just be a rule, and I think I'd be a lot more accepting of these if you were only allowed to get one of them into play per turn.
I think that would be really cool. Not even per
Or
turn,
per
per
game.
game, per game.
Per
Like
game.
once
That's what
per
I meant.
game
Yeah.
sounds really sick. You know,
Uh, yeah.
I would be much
We
more
can
fine
talk
with the
about
three prize basics now. I think the prize trades and the length of the game when you're only allowed one three prizer per game because like you're still ending in maximum 3 attacks, which is
mhm.
what I think should be like the minimum for a game. Ideally, it's like not what every game ends in, but
Yeah, ideally it's more than
3
that,
attacks
but
should be a
3
minimum.
minimum. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Do we want to talk about what's actually on the cards, like what
Yeah,
the
I
actual
have
Mega
Mega
Pokemon are.
Lucario pulled up here. I mean, for
Yeah,
starters, it being a stage 1 with no ability makes it Salvatore. That's not
sure
exactly
does.
what's on the card,
Uh,
but
not only that, but the
back
well,
or a
overall,
jab.
it's a stage one, 340 HP, biggest stage one Pokemon we have, bigger than most of the state. Like, there's like I think three
Stage
Pokemon in the game right
2s.
now that have 340 HP. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's more, but
I
not
think
a
it's
lot
like
of
the
relevant ones.
Blastoise,
Torterra,
Terra Blastoise, and
Garganical.
oh yeah, Garg.
There's probably a couple more, but
They're
none of
not
them are
playable.
relevant. Yeah. This one will be playable because first
Definitely.
attack for one fighting energy, 130 HP, 130 HP,
Bye
130
bye Miraidon. That deck's off the
damage.
map.
Yeah. Anything electric or normal. Attach up to 3 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to benched Pokemon in any way you're like. I'd say notably 3 fighting energy is a lot. You're doing that off of an attack that does decent damage,
First
good
viable
setup
fighting
damage,
deck.
I would say. And it is basic fighting energy, but it is going to any of your Pokemon.
Yeah, so that's
So
that
you can
enables
play.
stuff like anything that's Terra can still receive.
Mhm.
Very, very crucially, anything that's Terra can still receive it. I know that's been a limitation for like a decent. Our Terra Pokemon sort of unplayable. Like a lot of our energy exhibition is type specific. For example, you can't Dark Patch to Terra Fighting Hoopa.
Mhm.
Makes it like damn near unplayable.
Yeah, it makes it pretty bad.
So
But
the
this going
any
to
is
anything
huge.
is nice.
That makes it even
Uh,
comboable with like other cards. Like not even like fighting. Like Terra cards that want the fighting energy but aren't fighting type. Like even just cards that are like Iron Hand.
just colorless attack
You
costs
could
like
attach for
Regigigas
turn
maybe.
electric and then aura jab the other 3 fighting on Iron
Yeah. Oh God, don't
Hand. Like
it
I'm
always
just
has to be
realizing
hands.
that.
But you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. That's very realistically something that could happen.
Yeah.
Um,
And
second
even
attack
worse,
though.
oh god,
Oh,
because even worse now, whatever
sorry.
you
Keep
aura
talking.
jabbed
Keep
into
talking.
is probably in Iron Hand's range.
Yeah.
So
No. Thanks for
you're
speaking that
taking
into
3
existence,
prizes.
buddy.
That's terrible. And you can
God,
do that
that's
turn 1 with Salvatore.
yep.
That's so
Oh,
terrible.
it's gonna be interesting.
Oh,
It's gonna
that's
be interesting.
terrible. Oh, never mind. I'm not a
Uh,
fan of this anymore. I
the
hate that.
second attack. Maybe you don't need hands. Because second attack for 2 energy, 270. So you're gonna
270.
turn this Pokemon. Can't use Mega Brave. That's good. 270 is taking out every basic in the format. Even most of them with charms.
Most stage
Uh,
1s as well.
most stage ones as well.
Taking out
Uh,
Zoroark gets killed by something. Get to that in a minute.
yeah.
Taking
Uh,
out Zoroark, taking out Goldengo, taking out
but like,
not Archaludon. Get wrecked,
well,
Archaludon. Archaludon
I don't
stays on
know,
top.
Mason. I want to knock out a Caledon.
Is there any card I can play to raise?
Is there any card I can play to help me
I
knock
can
out
think of a few.
or Caledon?
I can think of a few.
We will just leapfrog the other Mega and scroll down a bit to another card they revealed, not in the presentation, but shortly afterwards on a Japanese stream.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh.
yeah,
Hmm.
Premium Power Pro, and this is a card that's I'm very torn on its effects. I think it's obviously it's meant to be played with Lucario.
Fighting has been awaiting its time to shine.
It hasn't
shine
been
a little
super relevant lately. It's always been such a good weakness to hit without a lot of amazing and without a good engine or
Yeah, it's
great
been a very
attackers.
valuable type with not a lot backing it up.
I think this will push it over the edge. During this turn, attack speeds every fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage. It's Fusion Strike tablets, it's Electro Power, it's various other items that boost damage, except it's for fighting types exclusively.
Kind of excited for this.
This is excellent, and it makes me excited for more than just Mega Lucario. It's helping a lot of fighting Pokemon push back breakpoints that would help. Yeah, maybe Flygon. Annihilate was one that I thought of.
Oh, true.
There's just a lot of Pokemon that have
Isn't
kind of
there?
awkward caps, and this pushes them past it.
Yeah.
To hit the relevant caps, usually you only need to play 1, maybe 2 per turn to get these big knockouts. I
mean,
think it's going to
330 with
be a
2.
little. It's going to be a little much with Mega Lucario, but outside of
I don't
Mega
know. It
Lucario, I
seems
think
pretty
this is just
cool,
a
though.
cool card.
Uh,
No, I think it's
the-
just nice for the archetype to get that, or the
Yeah.
type to get that buff.
Definitely. I know a lot of people are doing it, but I don't know. I don't.
No, I think Lucario is the combination that makes too much of a problem.
Yeah.
Mason, though, Lucario
Not the only one we got.
it's not the only one, and quite frankly, I think it might not end up seeing that much play. Because what's the other Mega Pokemon that we have, Mason?
So the other one that we have, Mega Gardevoir. Stage 2,
Mm-hmm.
360 HP.
Biggest
Uh,
HP we've ever seen, by the way.
yep. And it for one psychic does 50 damage for each psychic energy attached to all of your Pokemon.
And
I
these
can't
cards
think of
are
any cards that put like a lot of psychic energy.
yeah. What are the ones that do that? Is it perhaps the
Gardevoir
existing Gardevoir
EX.
EX
Yeah, that
that
deck is gonna be
will
disgusting.
still be legal at the same time? Not with
For a while.
refinement.
For a
Not
while.
with. So we lost refinement.
We'll lose its. It'll lose a lot of its draw, so that'll be kind of how it adjusts.
It's losing refinement and
I keep
immediately
getting-
getting one of the most broken attackers I've ever seen.
Yeah, I keep getting Marvel Rival on the page, and every single one of them is of the invisible lady. Yeah.
That's
From
pretty funny.
from behind. I've
We're
been
an ad blocker, man.
periodically like cookie.
You got an ad blocker or something.
I probably should. I also definitely should have muted my Discord. There were a few.
Oh, I was getting hammered with those earlier.
Yeah, I was getting those too. I
right.
really
thought it's episode 3 of the
episode
podcast,
3,
guys.
I'm
We're not
learning
that
here.
professional yet.
I was almost 100% sure Streamlabs puts my Discord in streaming mode. They shouldn't get, and I actually know it did. I had to dismiss the notification so it would show up when I was webcam. Whatever.
That's pretty.
I'll take
funny.
them anyway.
Anyways,
sorry. Side note. This is a
No,
crazy card. This is just a crazy.
I don't
card.
know what else there is to say about this card. It's just it's the biggest HP we've ever seen.
I mean, it gets Monkey Dory too.
It gets monkey it's just like there's already a Gardevoir that has the most powerful energy acceleration we've probably ever seen. It literally
The
Mega
synergy is just,
Gardevoir and
insane.
Mega Gardevoir EX alone is probably its own deck.
Yeah.
That is so incredibly powerful. And I can't wait for Charizard EX to Briar it for 4 prizes.
Oh god. Yeah. Honestly, I don't hate that.
It's certainly a way to keep it in check and a way to keep Charizard relevant.
I know a lot of the discourse has just been like doing how fast games, and it's not like invalid.
No,
I think that's like a good way. Like this deck might be really good, but if this deck gets really good, maybe they won't be good.
Pokemon.
Maybe the decks that play the longer games will end up being better. Because I mean, we're still gonna have Badu, right? We're still gonna have like a ton of stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about them, but I think we kind of just need to wait and see I feel what else we're getting and what the format's going to look like in that time. Is releasing this year, meaning we have bare minimum 2 more sets that we haven't seen any cards from before we get to that point, if I'm not mistaken. Based on
we've seen
Japanese
like limited
leaks.
cards from.
I think we actually have 1 set before this one that we haven't seen any cards from, a special set we're going to be getting over the summer.
We have seen 1 card. I believe it's the Rocket set, right? What you're talking about?
The Rocket set is the next set we're getting after Journey Together.
Yeah, is that?
I think we're going to get another set before this one.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, isn't the Rocket set what has the Shaman?
Yes, if we're going to pivot to the other new cards, we've got quite a few other new cards, but certainly the most relevant one is Shaman. That will be Destined Rivals after the Rocket set, quote unquote, after Journey Together. I think we're getting it in late May. What does this card say, Mason?
Bench barrier, but without rule boxes. So Flower Curtain, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon without a rule box from attacks from your opponent's.
Yes.
80 HP also, as well. Yes. Very, very crucially 80 HP.
Yes. I can go both ways on this card. I think, first of all, the ability
I'm a big fan, actually.
I like it. I think it's better. I think it's cool to deny it to rulebox Pokemon. First of all, most of the relevant rulebox Pokemon have friggin' built-in bench barrier anyways. Love that. Love Terra Pokemon.
I know is a thing we've talked about. They should really print like a tool or something that lets you hit bench Terra Pokemon.
But I think denying that to other like support Pokemon and stuff, I think that's just like, it's relevant. It keeps stuff like Squawkabilly and Fez being a bit of a liability if you're going to try and snipe them down.
I think that's what's important.
I think that's fine. I think that keeps the cards pretty balanced depending on their power level.
Definitely.
It's nice to stop your Gardevoir, your Ralts or your Riolu or whatever you're going to be playing from getting knocked out immediately. Also, we mentioned 80 HP, not buddy profitable,
which I think is a good thing. I think like bench barrier is like objectively healthy for the game. and like we definitely
Mhm.
need it. I think like bench sniping decks are really really cool, but when there's no checks for them, they just become almost like out of hand. So
They
like
they
you need
become
bench
the
barrier.
ultimate gatekeepers of the
Exactly.
format.
But Manaphy's lame. Manaphy's so lame. Is it you know, there's not really a better way to do it, but it just like instead of like checking them, a lot of the time it just walls them and they stop existing. And it's like this all or nothing mentality with it. So I think Shaman, um, not only, not protecting rulebox Pokemon, but
Mhm.
also being 80 HP makes it like just barely inconvenient enough to find that a lot of decks are like reasonably enough of the time going to whiff it. Or
Yes.
have to make the decision to put it down versus something else. I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think
is what is important.
having to commit a nest to it is certainly relevant. Uh, and I think yeah, a bench power barrier being as powerful of an ability as it is, I think it is worth having to commit that kind of resource to it. Additionally, as we've seen currently and in the past, any deck that can both snipe and spread damage counters, which is a very limited amount, but it has existed, cough cough, Regidrago, they kind of just nuke anything that's 70 HP.
Yeah, you're really not too
Whereas 80
concerned about it.
HP isn't that much higher, but I feel like the
I mean, it matters.
and
We
we'll
lose Radiant Alakazam, so like
true.
our best way for like decks like Dragapult to hit something that's above 60, and like Radiant Alakazam. When we lose Radiant
Mhm.
Alakazam, from from all I know, it's really just Hawlucha. This puts
We're
it
just
out
seeing
of
a lot of
Hawlucha
play
Dragapult
post
range.
rotation.
Out of Hawlucha, I mean, not
Yes.
that Dragapult's a relevant deck to be blocking bench damage, but like I don't know. In Regidrago, it
It
was.
just I think just generally like we've seen in the past, 80 HP is a little easier to dodge those damage counters. Uh, we'll see. I think overall we're on the same page of like it's a little unfortunate you can't Poffin for it, but
I think
probably
that's
in the
probably for the
long
best.
run, healthy to force that dedication of resources. And there were a couple of other cards revealed, but none of them are that
I don't
good.
even know that cards revealed.
Today, Misty's Staryu and Starmie dropped, and neither of them are great. So first one is flip a coin for paralysis. The Starmie is 60 plus 80 if it evolved from Staryu during that turn.
I mean, I don't
That's
know.
like it's an aggressive attacker that's doing a lot of damage early, but it's
It's like a
doing
one
it
prize of
for
it.
it's doing it for one turn.
Yeah, I mean, you get
So
three of those off, and you're knocking out Mega Lucario.
yeah, yeah.
3 for 3. No, we're so back, I guess. I don't know,
Mhm.
but yeah,
That's about
I
it.
think it's like generally everything important from Pokemon.
Hmm.
Except Cafe
Uh,
Remix, we're getting Flapple, baby. Let's go.
sure. God, I used to grind. I used to play so much of that game. I haven't touched it in years. Yeah.
I
I
suppose left is our journey together prediction.
yeah, we're getting to the end of the podcast, so we can keep it brief here. Just generally go over Journey Together, the next format, what's been doing well in City Leagues and the Champions League, and what we think that's going to look like. And Mason, can I just tell you, I really don't know, and I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. It's on Limitless.
I don't. I keep talking.
But yeah,
Flip champions.
it's just such a weird and wide format that seems to be pretty dominated by Dragapult, Raging Bolt making a pretty
A
big
lot of
comeback
a
as
lot of
well, despite
wall.
the pieces it's lost. A lot of wall. Wall is a very common denominator, being able to block attacks from powerful EX Pokemon, Terra Pokemon, and basic Pokemon. There's Pokemon that block attacks from all three of those, and kind of putting them all in one package is pretty good. Particularly with the loss of V Pokemon, you can no longer circumvent some of
Stuff
those
like
that
Farigiraf
target
becomes a
EXs and
lot more
stuff.
viable
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
uh I don't know, like Regidrago is not able to hit it.
Yeah. Uh all the trainers boxes kind of completely the trainers decks kind of completely flopping. I think N is overall seeing the most success, which isn't a surprise, but it's not seeing that much success because it has a very limited attacker pool. It's incredibly
Yeah,
consistent. It's always playing the game. It's just not always taking knockouts.
and it's
Uh
kind of dead on arrival. I
Yeah,
think it
all of the
had a
trainer
good
decks are.
opportunity to like perform, the rest of the world. But
Mhm.
I really think that's something that would have been popular. But the Shaman on the horizon, it's a pretty dead on arrival. And that just really on the Star Mana.
Yeah.
Now, if we're getting ways to get that Shaman out of play, maybe.
The other one that definitely was looking like the strongest trainer deck other than Ends was Hops. That has found success as not its own archetype, but a package in Arcaludon, being a single prizer and otherwise early game attacker with the Cramorant and Snorlax, and then just one or two Zacian in there to really boost the deck's damage. The deck does struggle with overall damage output, kind of capped at that 220. Zacian hits 240 base and can hit with up to plus 90 with Snorlax Tool in the stadium in play. That's 330. That's knocking out most things in format. It's not seeing a crazy amount of success, but like that is the way that people have been playing it, combining it with the Hops package because it's a very robust single prize attackers, and then the Arcaludon helps power up the bigger dudes.
Generally, no. Other deck that's been a lot of success, Terror Box is when
Terrabox,
I'm
so
looking
happy
at.
you
I
brought
just
that
have
up.
Champions League Fukuoka pulled up. That was the easy to
Hmm.
find, and it's all pretty much wall and Terror Box. A little bit of other stuff.
Yeah. Terrabox looks really cool, having a lot of different attacking options. The Teal Mask Ogerpon to put energy into play, the Wellspring Ogerpon for its snipe and trapping, Clefairy to take out the Dragapults and Bolts. Um, it seems
Clefairy.
very interesting, seems pretty darn high skill. Uh, Pikachu also to hit the super high damage depending on the variants. Seems like there's a lot of different ways to play it. I'm a little worried about how much Wall knocks it out, especially with melodic and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
decks are definitely going to start need to incorporating outs to that. Which honestly, I don't even know what that looks. I haven't even seen.
Not even any, no canceling clone anymore. So
Yeah, so it's going to take like a lot more space and thought put in how you're
yeah,
dealing with it. But honestly,
it's just been
I'm way more open to a deck like Melodic being the wall stall deck of the format versus like I think this is just like a way more healthy version of what Snarl is
mhm.
because you're still playing the game, just hitting into a wall, like really cool. And Poke Vital A like actually seems it's hilarious.
That's the craziest part. Actually, that is worth
I
mentioning. That
that
Poke
just
Vital A is making an appearance in
that
many
just
of these.
cannot be the best A spec for that. I mean, I guess it is, but
Yeah,
I don't know. It's hilarious. I love it.
I yeah, I think going into next format, here in the international scene, the TPCI regions, um, have an answer to Wall. Try and play a deck that doesn't just lose to that
You know, it does.
because
No, it does have an answer
what does have an answer to Wall, Mace?
for
For
Ralligator, which did
Alligator,
end up
yep.
taking down Champions League Fukuoka with a
Even
little bit
if
of
it
wall in it.
incorporates walling elements, yeah, the melodic and the
Yeah,
Mimikyu.
give you time to just get
Uh,
going. But I mean, generally playing around the for Alligator, I mean, you still have the trapping of Totodile, have a hit and run with the Crocodile, and for Alligator to just do a lot of damage with its ability, and then of course Memory Dive to let you use those two previous attacks. It's such a cool deck, and like this is the type of stuff that we were talking about was getting kind of pushed out of the meta by like Reggie Drago. I mean, because none of this, I mean, really like we have all these cards now. These aren't post rotation cards.
yeah,
None of
some
them are.
people are even trying to make it work right
Yeah,
now, which don't do that. It's not
but
post
it doesn't
rotation yet.
work.
It's not
Yeah,
good yet.
literally, I'm looking at this
uh,
deck and there's literally zero post rotation cards in it,
uh,
unless like the Feebas or something is.
no, you're totally correct.
Yeah,
None of
this
these
is
cards are from
entirely like a
post
pre.
rotation
This is a
are from
Twilight.
Journey Together.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Like this is what we see the meta open up. Which this deck is like way cooler out of what we have right now, in my opinion.
I am fascinated by it. I need to start testing post rotation and seeing how this thing works and how other decks match up into it. Um, I'm really interested by it, and I think it is cool that the meta is opened up to stuff like this.
Yeah.
But um, I don't know. Is there anything else in particular you wanted to point out? There's
No,
a
I
couple
really
of like
wanted.
other notable decks from Champions League, but I don't know how many of them have continued with their success. And I feel like the meta
Sure.
is still just
It's definitely
super
developing
duper
still.
wide. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the world takes this format and what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled up like the most recent City League, and I know that's more of a League Cup equivalent, but even this is like pretty
Mhm.
wide. A lot of Dragapult though.
I think
Um,
Dragapult and
Dragapult, but in different forms. Even there's a Golden Go Dragapult, there's a Xatu Pult, and then
oh
there's
my
three
god, don't get
Dusto
me
Pult.
started. I don't want to talk about Golden Go Dragapult.
Nope,
That
we're gonna
list
skip
just
it.
seems like the biggest
A bit
pile
of
of all
Zoroark
time.
seeing success, a little bit of the Archelon we were talking about.
Mhm.
Just generally like cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a like Japan plays things pretty differently than we do. But even with that knowledge, it is a very weird and wide format. I'm really curious to see how internationally it's going to develop.
I'm excited for sure.
Me too.
I know my one wish was that Iona would be good. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna
I
force it though.
I think that might be the least played of all the trainer archetypes. Even if Lily's isn't her own archetype,
Really just
being able to hit Dragon for weakness is really darn good. And Ionos just doesn't exist anywhere, which is so sad.
so cool. But whatever.
Yeah. We'll figure
We'll
it out.
see.
It'll
We'll
be
see.
around for another couple of years.
We have time. But I think that about wraps us up here.
Yeah, this is a longer one. Had a lot to
A little
talk
bit.
about after the
Actually,
break, but
bonus 15.
yeah. I anything else you wanted to add, Mason? Any closing notes for us?
Thanks for listening.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll try and be a little more consistent with these uploads if life doesn't get in the way.
All right.
All right. Yeah, this has been the Delta Stream podcast. See you guys later.
See ya.